the critical explanation or interpretation of a body of work. We examine the fandoms of young and old, looking from origin to ending and everywhere in between. They say you never truly know someone until you know what they are passionate about. Sit back and buckle up. Welcome to the Exegesis.
What's up, everybody? Man, it's a special day. Not only did I give episode 7 earlier this week, it is Saturday. The Ahsoka ending finale is hit, and we need to talk about it. And of course, with this being such a monumentous show, that they pulled all the stops out for advertising and marketing and everything. I couldn't do it alone. So let me bring forth from the depths of the backstage my co-host for the night, Ro.
What is up, DJ and everybody in Twitter land? I see some wonderful people in the chat.
Yeah.
Welcome, everyone.
Yeah, man. Got here early. Thank you very much. RFB, our rural farm boy, the connoisseur of all Star Wars podcasts. So welcome in. And we also have Andrew Haley here as well. So yeah, man, Ro, thanks so much for coming in and discussing this with me.
Hey, I didn't want the Scarif live spot to be empty, so it's all yours, brother.
Well, I mean, I was going to do this on Thursday, and then you popped in and like, hey, your mic cable or no sound, and I'm like, well, where's? So I look, and my son,
no cable.
My son took the power cable because it also fits his controller. That's on, but he lost his wire for that powers his PlayStation controller.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what the hell? Oh, I needed it. Really?
I'll just take Dad's cable.
Yeah. So he's been banished. So
that's funny. That's funny.
We are here tonight. So man, I've been tossing it back and forth to try to figure out how to best go through this. I have a real quick synopsis of the show. Then we can get into the nuts and bolts of it.
Sure.
So we have to confront the Jedi. Morgan Elsbeth is taken in to become a full-fledged Night Sister. She is gifted Mother Talzin's sword by the Great Mothers, while Ezra Bridger, sorry, my mouth still isn't working right, constructs a new lightsaber using spare parts from Huyang that had in his ship. He's looking for a particular emitter. After their ship is damaged by a fighter attack, Ahsoka, Ren, and Bridger make their way on foot to the Chimera, which was docked with the Eye of Sion. They are confronted by Elsbeth and the Night Troopers, whom the Great Mothers have resurrected after they've been killed, using their Night Sister magic.
Right. Spelled with a K, I think.
Yes.
People are spelling it with a K.
Yes. Yeah. I almost said Dathomir magic, but I guess this is not exclusive to Dathomir. It's just where we've seen it in the past. So they keep pressing forward, and then we get an instance where Ezra is going to try to board the Chimera, and he needs a little help from his friends.
Right.
And,
I was about to say the same thing.
Sabine helps him out, which we'll get into. And then she stays behind to help Ahsoka, who kills Morgan Elsbeth. The Eye of Sion jumps to hyperspace, leaving Ahsoka, Sabine Wren, Huyang stranded on Peridia. as Thrawn and the Great Mothers arrive over the planet Dathomir. We see a shuttle that docks with the New Republic, and a trooper walks out. Chopper investigates, and it ends up being Ezra for a heartwarming reunion with Hera. And
I don't know. I
Chopper.
don't know. I don't know how heartwarming it was.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
We'll get to
It looked
that.
like
We'll
she
get
had
to that.
tears in her eye, but maybe that was for a different reason. Then we go back. We have Ahsoka and Sabine and Huyang. It looked like that they're settling in with the Nati, making their new home on Peridia, where we get a Force Ghost appearance, and then we see that Shin has joined the bandits with a salute, I guess. We have Balin Skoll standing on the statue, which is pointing to a mountain in the distance that we've seen somewhere else. And if you look at the mountainscape, it does appear to be the Mortal Gods. So there is the quick recap of
Nicely done.
The finale.
Nicely done there, my friend.
There's a lot to unpack there.
There is a lot to unpack. And so, Brad came back, and we did our show, which dropped on Thursday, and we had some thoughts. In lieu of doing a Scarif Live tonight, obviously you're in the Scarif Scuttlebutt timeline. Brad and I think Brad and I kind of said everything that we were going to say about the series as a whole. He had not gotten an opportunity to talk to me about it. I know, we were doing some Scarif Lives all throughout the series, but he wanted to talk about the entire series, including the final episode, and we had a chance to do that. But this will give me an opportunity too to kind of say a couple things that maybe I might have missed on our show. But it'll definitely give us an opportunity for you and I to chat, because I know right off the bat, we were messaging each other on the Twitterverses and the Discords there. Kind of a little bit of a head scratcher on some elements, but we'll get to those in detail. But yeah, let's, I hope, and obviously spoilers, because we're going to be talking about some, plot details and things like that. So if you haven't seen the episode, go back and check it out and then come back.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think most everybody has seen it now. If the numbers that are accurate for what I saw, they had been going down up until about episode 5. 5 saw a little tick up, 6, 7, and then 8 was a bigger thing. And I know that they released the numbers like a week later, so we really don't get a good picture. Another thing that I thought about as well is, with it only being 8 episodes, a lot of people that aren't necessarily Star Wars fanatics like we are, but they'll watch the show. They wait until it's all out, and then they just binge watch it.
Yeah. And sometimes I think that's better, because sometimes we as Uber fans, we pick things apart so deeply that, we don't give the show an opportunity to kind of breathe and tell the complete story from A to Z. We're only seeing A, and then next week B, and then et cetera, et cetera. And I think Ahsoka, because it's such a short show, I think maybe they should have, dropped it all at once. But I know there's a lot of controversy, especially with folks that I talk to, regarding a complete drop or a, week by week. I know, obviously, as content creators and podcasters and stuff, I know a lot of people like the weekly thing, because then it gives us, an opportunity to kind of chit chat with each other and talk about, each episode as it drops. But that's that's probably going to be a very interesting debate, going forward with these shows, because like I said, it's I know a lot of people like the binge model,
Mhm.
but I think as content creators, it's a little different.
Yeah, absolutely. So this the finale. We'll start there, and then we can get into some of our thoughts about the series overall. Um, I think you and I were in agreement on the rating on this. I gave it a 3 out of 10.
Right, right.
Um, there, there were so many, and I was trying to explain this to my wife because when I'm making the notes, I run them by her. I'm like, "Does this make sense to you? Does this?" And she's like, "Well, I don't understand." And she didn't like the show hardly at all. She's not a Star Wars fan, but for her, it was just a pacing issue. She's like, "Why are they taking so long to do something?"
Yeah.
And at this point, it was when they had first got to Peridia, and they're like, "Oh, we have a prisoner," and they take their time activating those three little beads, and they slowly go over to Sabine, and then takes 5 minutes for them to. It's like, why didn't they just say, "All right, yep, you're a prisoner, you go to jail, be done with it, and move on"? So, and I could understand that, but the way I tried to explain it to her was I loved the dots that we got, the bright spots of Star Wars. All right, we
Hmm.
have this one, we have this one, we have this dot over here. Sometimes the dots were close together, sometimes that they were further apart. But my main gripe was the way that they connected the dots. It wasn't always a straight line. It was they made a circle. Sometimes they crossed lines, and it just didn't seem to flow right. And that to me was the most evident in this last episode. I thought the pacing was really off. What did you think?
I would have to agree with you. And I think in general, a lot of the Star Wars shows have suffered from issues with pacing. And I kind of mentioned that to Brad on the show. I think we went to the example of the Kenobi series. Kenobi
Mhm.
started out as they wanted to do a movie. So you've got a script for a 90-minute to 2-hour movie that, for all intents and purposes, has to be pretty tight. It's got to be concise. It's got to tell you all the information. It's got to have the action, have the dialogue, explain everything. Okay. For a series, they opted to, obviously make it longer.
Mhm.
Kenobi was how many episodes? 12?
Um,
8
was it?
also?
I thought it was
6?
8.
Yeah, it was longer than a movie length.
Mhm.
Um, and I think and this is what I mentioned to Brad. I think the advent of having to come up with thank you, Andrew. Kenobi was 6,
6. Okay.
even shorter than Ahsoka here. Having to create content for a streaming show, I think gives you an issue of pacing, because you start out with an idea for a movie, which is great, but then if you need to stretch it out and fill the time that a series would fill, um, in order for subscribers to sign up to that, streaming service and then get to the next project, which I'm hearing Skeleton Crew is going to come out January, February of next year, which kind of makes sense. Let the
Mhm.
holidays kind of simmer and then go, start running again. So it's interesting to me that everybody is noticing a pacing issue, and I think
Mhm.
a lot of, I mean, I don't want to say everybody, I don't want to generalize, but I think a lot of people that I've spoken to, even folks that are not like uber Star Wars fans, like people at work that just watch the shows, they have noticed pacing issues, and I think it's relevant to kind of point that out, for whatever reason that is. But I feel like, um, like these shows kind of start out as movies, but then they start to, add this and move this
Mhm.
over here, and like, how can we make this this movie idea fit into 8 episodes, and sometimes it gets watered down, sometimes it gets a little wishy-washy when it comes to the storytelling, and I feel like that's the inherent problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow, Andrew's doing all the research there.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah. Kenobi was 6, Andor was 12, and Boba was 7. Thank you, Andrew.
Boba was 7 too many.
Well, I wasn't going to say that, but I'm glad you did. But yeah, I mean, there was just, to me, there were a few bright spots in this. I loved some of the imagery that we saw.
I mean, visually, the entire series is fantastic. I mean,
Yes.
from and I've talked from the beginning, even from the beginning of the Mandalorian, the advent of the volume and the technology that takes place, in that environment. I think I'm getting used to it, or sometimes I feel like they're shooting in a warehouse.
Mhm.
But I think, I said my piece with the volume technology, and now I'm just watching it for other things. But it looks cinematic. Sean and I always go back and forth with that word, but I think it looks fantastic. It looks the ships look amazing. The space battles are great. I mean, a lot of the visuals just exude Star Wars.
Yeah. Speaking of ships and everything, this is the first time. I mean, we've gotten a couple of ships here and there. This is the first time in Ahsoka that we actually got our TIE fighter.
Yes.
Oh, as soon as Thrawn says, detach 2 or dispatch 2 TIE fighters to take care of Ahsoka, and I'm like, oh, and they come down and just that iconic whine. I'm like, yes. So yeah, and of course that didn't turn out too well. But
what's up, Danny?
Right.
I mean, when you think about it, it kind of did turn out better than expected. Obviously, stormtroopers can't hit, whatever, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, it turned out, the ship still crashed, and it was, it's stranded now.
Mm-hmm.
So, kind of mission accomplished.
Yeah.
What's up, Danny?
Hey, Danny, how are you? So another thing that I was wanting to get your thoughts on. What were your thoughts on Sabine and her force ability?
I think it was too convenient. But here are my thoughts on Sabine and the use of the Force. From the beginning of the show, they kind of made it a big deal to make the audiences feel that Sabine didn't need the Force. I mean, there was even a line at the beginning of the show where Ahsoka says, "I don't need her to be a Jedi. I just need her to be herself." And that, that might imply that by being herself and relaxing, that she could use the Force. But I think I took it the other way, that she doesn't really need to be a Force user to be an important figure in the bigger scheme of things. And I think kind of Disney kind of dropped the ball with that message. I think it is important to tell audiences, especially young audiences that are watching Star Wars, and this is their first, entrance into the franchise. I think it's important for, kids to know that you don't have to be like that special person or with the abilities in order for you to be, special. So I think, as far as Sabine using the Force, I think it came out at a time that was very convenient. I mean, the entire, I know she trained and, she's a warrior, et cetera, et cetera. But what she tried to move a cup early on in the episode, in the series, and then she tried to open a locked door, and then, I don't know. It was a little too fast, I think.
Yeah.
But in the long run, I don't mind that she's able to use the Force. I mean, the thing that did bother me is, like, she was able to call for the lightsaber and then kill that night trooper, and then all of a sudden now she's like force pushing people onto Star Destroyers. Slightly far-fetched, but that's Star Wars for you.
Yeah. I just I was hoping, and I agree with you. I was hoping that they would send that message that it's okay if you don't
Yeah.
have the Force. I
Yeah.
was even if they would have brought up, she kept trying, and couldn't quite do as much as a regular Jedi. And then they bring up something like, I don't know, was it Church of the Force, like Chariot, where you had the monk that, I am with the Force is with me.
Mhm.
And, he wasn't a Jedi, but he used the Force in a limited basis to enhance his abilities.
Yeah.
And I figured that's what she's been doing all along
Sure.
is if everyone is Force sensitive and all it takes is a little training, then she's been training for a long time. She just
Right.
can't manifest. And then when she called the lightsaber, I was like, oh, all right, here we go. And then I'm like, all right, so that was one thing. And I'm like, oh, go ahead and jump and I'll push you. And I'm like,
Yeah. I'm like, really? Come on, guys.
okay. I mean, I'm surprised at that point she just didn't reach out and with the Force and pull the Chimera back.
Right. Sure.
I mean,
She could have done that.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. It was just,
And
I-
and if you're listening to this and you're shaking your head, we are not misogynistic. We love female characters. So F off.
oh, yeah, absolutely. It has nothing to do with Sabine being female. If they would have put somebody in there that was a male character, I'd expect him to do the same thing.
Luke Skywalker.
So
Oh, Andrew forgot to switch his account from the Science Fictionary with that comment, the Science
Uh-oh.
Fictionary to
all right, now I got to pull it up.
Joker face.
The fact that they've been hinting at her Force sensitive. Yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
did they really? I mean, if they did, it really wasn't a.
But you
big
know what,
thing.
though? If you had never seen Rebels and this is the only time that you know that character, then you would never have known.
Right.
So there.
What were your thoughts on, I guess, Morgan Elsbeth's transformation and then demise?
Oh yeah, her transformation was really was interesting to see. You think that the Night Sisters had like some sort of tattoos on their faces and stuff like that, but it was really cool to see I guess the burning in of the symbols, which were pertinent to her being a Night Witch. As far as her demise, I mean, it was too bad. I liked her character. I liked her and Thrawn kind of were going a little head to head every time that Thrawn made a decision. It would have been nice to have seen a little more of that once we got into the the regular galaxy moving forward. But yeah.
I thought that she probably as soon as that happened, I'm like, oh, all right, now she has the blade. Great. And it's like, oh, well, one of us is going to have to stay behind. And I was like, so they're going to take this main character that they've been spending this whole time with, and instead of putting it off and taking her and having another Night Mother come down, oh, I'll take care of this.
Yeah.
And that way you can continue that feud later. No, all right, here's your new powers. Good luck to you, kid. There you go.
Right.
It's like Hera's parenting advice. It's just not very good. But man, trying to think of what else. I enjoyed the lightsaber build. I loved the banter between Ezra and Huyang.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
Last episode, when Sabine tried to give Ezra his lightsaber back, and he's like, "No, I don't need it." And then people were actually commenting on Twitter regarding that fact, and a lot of people were saying, he's a very much more enlightened Jedi. He doesn't need weapons. He's just using the Force. The Force is my ally, he said. and people accepted the fact that, oh, Ezra's so enlightened. And then what does he do this episode? He's building a lightsaber so he can get it back. What the hell?
Right? Yeah. And I
What
was gonna say,
what's with
I
the mixed
love that.
messages?
I love the scene. I love the banter back and forth, but he doesn't need a lightsaber. So, I mean, I don't know. Other than just for a name drop, or
Oh, and speaking of name drop, Brad had mentioned something on the show that Kanan Jarrus was his after Order 66 name. And how did Hu Yang recognize that name if Hu Yang was not around to know about Kanan Jarrus? He should have at least said Kanan who, and then somebody should have said, "Oh, you might know him as Caleb Doom," and that didn't happen. I thought that might have been a nice little deep dive dig story wise, especially since Filoni's the freaking writer of both stories.
yeah, it really made no sense. And then just to drop, oh, you mean Caleb?
Right.
I mean, maybe because he knew the lightsaber,
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, I think we're all reaching for a reason why that didn't happen. And everybody's repeating what Danny is saying, that, well, they talk to each other and they, but it would have been nice to acknowledge that. I think those are like the little things that made me go, wait a minute, what? So there's a lot of them, a lot of little moments like that. Yeah.
So, what did you think of the reveal of the reason why Ahsoka stopped training Sabine?
Oh, I thought that was one of the more interesting aspects of their relationship. And it obviously it harkens back to what's his name, Jake Skywalker. So it's interesting that that at this point Jedi are kind of afraid to train new apprentices, Padawans, because of their fear that they're going to use that knowledge for the dark side. I think that concept in itself is an interesting one. Don't make me watch The Last Jedi though, but still,
I was going to say we kind of get that a little bit later as well. So, but yeah, I thought that was interesting that, and because I was the whole crux of the very beginning. Oh well, she wasn't ready. Well, or I wasn't ready, or what's the story there?
Right.
There's got to be something bigger that they're not telling us, and then to finally get that payoff, I really enjoyed.
I wish there was a little bit more of a hint throughout the early episodes, because like you said, it's like it was very bland. It was very like, she's not ready. They kind of kept it, a big question mark. But yeah.
Yeah. And I wasn't sure and then the whole thing of, of Ezra, so Sabine's driving force was to find Ezra.
Right.
Throughout the very beginning, it's all about find Ezra, find Ezra, find Ezra. She hands over the artifact or the map. This will help you get to Ezra. She finds Ezra, and then just to be left behind, I'm like,
yeah,
all right, that doesn't really. I don't, man, I would have thought that maybe Ezra and Sabine go, or maybe they just don't get back and they're all left behind while Thrawn makes his way out of there. Which, it just wasn't handled well. And speaking of handling things well, how long does it take for that ring of Sion to conveniently dock into the Chimera so they can take off? It was like 3 years, and all right, well, here, we're going to take off now. all
Yeah.
right, and then they have the travel montage, and they have
Yeah.
the, go through, countless hordes of night troopers and Morgan Elsbeth, and then finally, all right, now we're taking off.
That's the other thing
Wow.
the other thing that bugged me. It's like Thrawn was telling Elsbeth, we need more time. We're still packing up our luggage. And why don't you go stop them? In the meantime, we'll fly really slow so they can catch up to us. And that was like, wait a minute, what's going on? And I think so. Here's the platform, and the Chimera was here, and they were going like really slow this way, and they finally, they jumped on there. I mean, I guess because a Star Destroyer is big and heavy and atmosphere, they have to do that. But maybe they could have gone upwards. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe rural farm boy can flip through the manual of the Star Destroyer driving instructions and let us know if there was another alternative. But yeah, it seemed that was like another one of those weird, convenient narrative plot points that gave me some eye roll moments.
Yeah.
And even before that, when Thrawn was bombarding, the surface because they were on the space horses getting to the tower to go up there, didn't hit a damn thing.
Yeah.
And I think it would have been, I guess, maybe more easily acceptable to me if it was maybe, how the Enterprise, sorry to cross the streams here, but this Enterprise has the photon torpedoes in the middle of the dish, and it's just one at a time.
Right.
But I mean, he had like a boatload of lasers just going down, just like on Lothal, which makes sense. But it wasn't hitting a damn thing. I think early on I had predicted that Sabine was going to die, and then during that part I'm like, oh, it's going to happen here. Somebody's going to die, but nobody died.
Right. Yeah. I wasn't going to bring that up, but that's all right. We all have predictions that go awry. Another thing that really got to me on this episode was the ending. And there were multiple parts in this ending that just to me really didn't make sense. And one that they didn't explain, and that was the relationship between Ezra and Thrawn. So they left together.
Yes.
They arrived
in Rebels. Yes.
And somehow they got separated.
Right.
And yet they leave together. And then somehow, while during this flight, when they're come out of hyperspace above Dathomir or whatever, Ezra manages to take a shuttle that is, as far as I understand, does not have hyperspace capabilities.
Right. Just conveniently.
And then shows up at the New Republic.
Right.
I mean, they never really got into that relationship. And I think that would be a story in and of itself. How did they do this?
Maybe we'll get a comic book, but I wanted to ask you and the chat. That's one of the things that bothered me from the beginning. Obviously for somebody that has seen Rebels, we know how they got there. But once we got to Thrawn, and once we realized that maybe Ezra was around here too, neither Ezra or Thrawn asked about each other. Like, okay, they got there together. What happened? Like Sabine didn't even say, hey, what, we found Thrawn. What happened? What happened to you guys? Why are you separated? That didn't come into play. And this is one of the times when I think that this series was kind of written a little bit more for casual fans, because casual fans are not going to know that, how they got there from the animated show. But it really bothered me that nobody asked. I mean, even Thrawn didn't really care to know about Ezra. I mean, they were trying to find Ezra after a while, but that was only after the fact. It would have been a really nice, I don't know, either flashback or some sort of explanation, a character, Ezra saying, yeah, once we got here, et cetera, this and this and this happened. But, and I know for most audiences, this might be kind of like a little bit of a nitpick. But again, when you spend your time, living, breathing, and shitting Star Wars, these are questions that I'd like to know.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. There's even for the casual fans, and this is going to lead into my biggest nitpick. You start watching a show, and in the very first episode, you have two compelling characters in Balin and Shin, and they come in and say, hey, yeah, we're not Jedi. Ooh, all right, they're not Jedi. Who are this? Even casual fans. Oh, well, they got lightsabers. They're not Jedi. Great,
Uh-huh.
fine, all right. They must be like Darth Vader. All right, not a problem. Casual fans. My wife asked me these same questions. Oh, does that mean that he's like a Darth Vader? No, not necessarily, but so got her straightened out on that. But and you start cataloging their and following along with their journey. And rest in peace, Ray Stevenson. He carried this show. He stole every scene he was in.
Yeah.
It was just absolutely breathtaking to see an actor bring that sort of gravitas to a role. And I was in hook, line, and sinker for that. It was amazing. And then in the finale, you're relegated to basically an end credit scene.
Yeah, almost like sub cameos. I mean,
To me, it made, and it even started. Yes, all right, episode 7. All right, you know what? You have your path. You go deal with them. Take your place in the Empire. I got shit to do over here. Pleasure doing business with you. And they part ways, whatever. And then, it's like, all right, well, now she takes off. Where's she going? Is she going to Thrawn's ship?
right.
I would figure, hey, she's going to follow, the trooper guys, but no, nothing. And then, all right, well, all right. Oh yeah, we forgot about these two characters. What can we have them do? Well, we're going to have her stand on a hill, and she'll light up her lightsaber. I mean, is that an act of war? Is that an act of greeting? Is she looking for, for Balin? Thinking that maybe he'll raise his, and she
Right.
gets nothing. I don't know. How did you think that? How did you feel the way that they handled them at the end?
Not very well. Yeah. It's, these characters are, like you said, they were intriguing from the beginning. I did want to, the internet was very happy with these characters, with these two. I mean, everybody loves the bad guy. And I think, before we got to Thrawn, I mean, they were the big baddies. They were the ones that were kind of pulling the strings. And you're right. Ray Stevenson was phenomenal. We're going to miss him in whatever it is that, these characters are going to, participate in next, whether it's a season 2 or a movie or whatever. But yeah, it's, I'm going to say this. Unfortunately, I think that we're starting to maybe see the cracks in the pavement when it comes to Dave Filoni's writing. I was asking Brad, I had asked him this question. I said, do you think you would feel better? Would your rating be a little higher if this particular episode was in animated form? Because to me, it was the narrative plot points. Some of the big strokes were very structured as an animated show. A leads to B and B leads to C, and it's all real neat in this 42-minute time slot. And that's probably what caused a lot of my consternation, a lot of my gripe. And you had mentioned that you had given it a 3 out of 10. That is exactly my rating. When I was watching the credits, I was like scratching my head because obviously we all expected a cliffhanger, obviously, because we knew that they couldn't resolve the story in one episode. So we were expecting it. I think I was expecting a hell of a lot more excitement, more, I don't know if you remember. Again, Andrew, I'm gonna cross the stream again and go Star Trek. Remember in season 7 of Star Trek: The Next Generation, when we had to wait a whole summer, when Riker said, Starfleet, we have engaged the Borg, and then dun 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 dun, to be continued. We're like, damn it, what's going to happen with Picard and Locutus? So we that's the type of experience that I was waiting for. Another amazing cliffhanger, but it was like it was doing this, and then I don't know, the last 30% of the show was just like no excitement, no nothing. I mean, even that cameo at the end with Anakin couldn't save it.
Yeah. And that was my next thing that I had here was, what did you think of that, of the Force ghost or projection there? I don't even know if it was needed. I don't know.
No, they should have left it out.
What purpose it served other than to confuse people.
Yeah, I think they should have left it out, and it didn't make sense that that Sabine was the one that felt Anakin's Force ghost.
Sorry, Andrew Haley.
Yeah, we're old.
Yeah.
But imagine that, Andrew, having to wait like all summer to find out what happens with the Borg.
Yeah,
those good times.
And perhaps that will, maybe season 2 they'll explain, and maybe, man, I really,
this was just a thing to check off the box to please some fans. Obviously, seeing Hayden Christensen in the role of Anakin Skywalker in the middle of the series was phenomenal. It was great. Everybody loved it. I think it was just one more time for him to appear. It just didn't have the same effect. It was, like you said, it was not needed. It was, I usually don't use the term fan service, but this one really, I think, was like over the top fan service that was absolutely not necessary.
I think we had enough of it in episodes 5 and 6, or I guess it was 5 and 7. Because she was training at the beginning of 7 with the holograms, which for some reason she didn't give to Luke. Or
that's another thing. Like,
21 recordings of your dad, and I'm going to hold on to these.
To all of them.
I know you're starting a new Jedi Academy, but sorry, I'm also going to keep the 25,000-year-old droid that knows everything about the Jedi Order.
Right.
Good luck to you.
But I'm going to use him as a mechanic.
Yeah. I not unless they bring him back for like in the second season, and they really go forward with this Mortis arc that it seems like that they're going to go with. I don't know if Anakin would be the father, maybe Balin the son, and Ahsoka being the daughter. Maybe I really don't know how they're going to do that. But I don't know. We'll have to see how that goes.
Max Rebo says Luke probably refused the recordings. But again, that's us fans like reaching out for explanations that, they're the ones writing the damn story, not us.
Yeah.
And speaking of Max Rebo, I'd like to remind everybody that at the end of the broadcast, we're going to do a little giveaway. I'm sorry, a little announcement of the giveaway. I've got all the people that entered to win the spaceship. I'm going to go ahead and put the names in here, do a little mixing, and then we'll pick a winner. And Max Rebo, I think you're in the running for that too. So
that's right. DJ is the winner. We'll just go ahead and get that out of the way. But yeah, a couple more points, and we'll go ahead and get to that. So we both agreed that 3 out of 10 for this series, or for the finale. What did you think of the series overall? If you had to give it a general rating out of 10 overall, all 8 episodes lumped together, where would you stand on that?
6 out of 10. Yeah. And, again, Brad said the same thing. You know, a 6 out of 10 is not super bad. I think all the Star Wars shows, you know, everything Star Wars, really, not just the shows, I think kind of fit in that middle. Obviously, except for Empire and Rogue One, those are a 10 out of 10. Yeah, I mean, 6 out of 10. You know, for me, and unfortunately for me, this was the weakest episode writing wise of the entire series.
And I'm right there with you. I had lots. I had issues with every episode. Most of them I liked, and I loved the bright spots that we got. I love the Star Wars that we got. Even from the very beginning, some of the crossover type elements with Indiana Jones type references that were
sure.
in there, different ways that it feels. I almost heard Beastie Boys playing it when Sabine was on the
Speeder bike, yeah.
Yeah. So I
Scooter.
mean, yeah, scooter. You know, whatever. My kids have been riding scooters all day, and that's what stuck in my head because it was only 70 degrees here for some reason. So nice cool day. It's the first cool day we've had that wasn't into the 90s.
Wow.
But yeah, I really think a lot of it goes with the writing.
Yeah.
Perhaps it would have been better if it had been animated rather than live action.
Yeah.
Maybe because I think people would have given it a little bit less
More
critique.
more forgiving. And it's
Yeah.
funny though, because you know, that's kind of a weird, interesting, like psychological thing because you know, do we see different mediums in a different, you know, mindset? So that's that'll be interesting. But you know, I mean, as far as I remember, I mean, I remember loving Rebels, and I remember, like, you know, really, you know, kicking my heels up at the stories and stuff like that. You know, but yeah, this one just I feel, like I said, I feel like we're seeing the cracks in Dave Filoni's veneer there. What is the Japanese art of repairing the helmet called? Kintsugi. I think we're starting to
Yeah.
see a little of that in Dave Filoni's writing.
So moving forward, do you think so we're probably getting at least to see either a season 2 or a continuation somewhere, whether it be a
Somewhere.
movie
Yeah.
or whatnot.
And we're gonna have to wait a long time though. I mean, you know, between the tail end of the writer's strike now, and then you know, and obviously the fan reaction is going to dictate a lot of what happens in the future. We've got you know, some other Star Wars that are coming through the pipeline. You know, will we get a season 2 of Ahsoka, or will we be jumping straight to the Mandoverse? One thing that we forgot to mention is you know, well, I guess you did mention a little bit of it, but I did not. I didn't catch a lot of the ending, especially when Balin was on the arm of the father. And then I definitely did not see the cutaway shot of him looking at the flashlight, like the beacon in the distance.
Yeah.
I must have been looking down, texting you or something, but I totally missed that. But
Yeah, it's yeah, that's a more crossover, at least for me. I mean, even from the title, uh, and I had it written down, but I don't see it anymore. But it was direct descended
Cool.
from C.S. Lewis with
Right.
Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, which was in the center. And then Warlord was the last one. Jedi, Witch, and
And the
Warlord
Warlord.
or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
You know, and then of course, you know, standing on the statues was a very Tolkien-esque type imagery
Figure.
that we've
Yeah.
gotten.
Right.
So
Yeah. So I think, you know, I'm really hoping that you know, whatever incarnation the story continues in, I think you know, the world between worlds and all that Force lore is a little wonky to begin with, especially you know, in the animation. I know a lot of people were not too happy with that, but I loved it. I just hope that the writing, you know, whatever it is that we get next, I hope the writing is tightened up a little bit, explained a little bit more. And I hope Dave kind of remembers some of the stuff that he wrote, 5-10 years ago to kind of
Mhm.
tie it all together.
I think he should tap Favreau um, to help him out with that. Favreau's mind is incredible when it comes to remembering details from
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah.
I saw a few interviews with him, and he was just talking about the nuances, even with like Iron Man.
Yeah.
He would there had already done Iron Man 3, and he was remembering nitpicky details in the first Iron Man.
Right.
And so I'm like, well, get him. You've already worked together on Mandalorian a little
Mhm.
bit. He's right there. Have him help you flush this out,
Sure.
pull it back in. And I think we're going to get a continuation of this. I think it's going to build to a crescendo with
Hope
the
so.
finale being a movie esque, and no telling. I mean, I know they'll tie it back into the sequel trilogy somehow, but we'll have to see how all that works.
Let's do the giveaway and remind people to head on over to Used and Abused before we end this puppy.
Absolutely, yeah. So we have a giveaway. So there it is in all of its glory. It's a Bad Batch. Is it the transport shuttle?
Yeah, it's the Marauder.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
love
man, that's
that
good looking.
ship.
I
And
can't wait to win that.
it's got two little figures. It's got Wrecker and Omega.
Oh my God.
Really, really nice ship. You can
Oh,
display it proudly. And yeah, it's really nice. All right.
Very
So
nice, very nice.
if you listened to the Kai Patterson interview, you had the details on how to enter to win. All of my patrons were automatically entered, but we had a couple of non-patrons that are entered. Vader Rapina, Max Rebo, Hyperspace Heroes Podcast. I'm going to put all the entries in my bucket. There you go. Shake it up a little bit. Why don't you sing us a little tune, a little Star Wars tune, and then at the end of the tune, I will pick a winner.
You don't want me to sing. That's
Just hum Darth Vader's theme.
do 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 do. Draw.
All right. Here we go. I got one. Let's see here.
Use the Force, Luke.
Use the Force. Here we go. And let me just say that this is very exciting. Who is going to win this? Whoa! Check it out. Max Rebo. The Max Rebo experience is the winner. Very nice. And thank you, Max, for sticking around with us here on the Exegesis, part of the Red 5 Network.
Yes.
Do me a favor, Max, DM me, give me your address, and then I will ship this out with a couple of stickers. And you know what? Everybody else that were non-patron, because I send them stuff all the time anyways, Hyperspace and then Vader Rapine, I'm going to send you guys some stickers anyway. But Max, that's yours. I'm going to put the sticker right on there. Excellent.
All right. And just as a reminder, we have a Red 5 book club. This month's selection is Heir to the Empire. We'll be starting that here real soon. So head over to the Red 5 Discord and you can get all the details on that. And of course, here's our bio links. Go to bio.link/red5, and there you can get every last one of the Red 5 podcasts and get their latest episodes and all of this goodness. And for me, bio.link/exegesis, EXEGESIS.
And we do giveaways all the time. So make sure you listen to all the Red 5 Network podcasts and make sure you enter. I know a lot of people, don't like to do the extra work, but look, Max Rebo Experience got a prize out of it.
Absolutely. Ro, tell everybody where they can find you.
Absolutely. Just look back at your smart speaker and tell Siri to play the latest Scuttlebutt podcast. Available wherever you get your other podcasts. We've got a new project coming up. Prop Store UK is having another Star Wars auction in November, and I'm teaming up with my friend Heidi over at Costume Co. We're going to be doing some live shows and really featuring a lot of the auction items that they have. I think Anthony Daniels C3PO helmet is one of them. So get your credit cards ready and blank checks out, make them out to I'm sorry, no, just kidding. But absolutely. So look out for that announcement. And obviously, Brad is back. So we got some deep dives here at the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast with Team Scarif, the original co-host of the podcast. Looking forward to talking with him a lot more. And then obviously teaming up with the rest of the Red 5 network. A bunch of great, wonderful content creators. Follow that hashtag, We Are Red 5, and you'll find the best the internet has to offer when it comes to Star Wars and geek products.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have a great group here. Love working with each and every one of them. And of course, for me next week, we're going to do a departure from Star Wars since Ahsoka is over. We're going to look at dragons in pop culture and answer that question that we've been kind of doing a series on. Are they real? So that'll be next Thursday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern here on the YouTubes. And of course, don't forget, go join Used and Abused podcast after this. You got about 2 minutes, so just mosey on over there, hit that bathroom, get a drink refresher, head on over. Until next time, folks, thank you very much. Have a great night.
Did you say drink that bathroom? No, hit that bathroom. Okay.